Hellions to escape, roasting all of the Zerglings, so a ton of damage actually being dealt here. If we look at the units lost, they are fairly similar in the total number of minerals, probably due to those early bunkers and marines. And it looks like the Hellions are actually doing some damage to this third base. Very surprising to see. Usually it's a Marauder that can really rip this base apart, but the Hellions are being allowed to do tons of damage. If he's not careful, he might actually lose this expansion, which could be huge, but he's going to push him away at the last minute. A scan does go down and take out some creep tumors, but he's coming in again, and now the Mutalisks arrive. This should be good to take these out, which cannot shoot air, but it is too late. The hatchery falls. Absolutely critical blow dealt to the Zerg player by SjoW right there. 2 more barracks are going to be put up. Going to expand his production on his lead to counter the Zerg's small army at this point. We already have another expansion going down here, which may be put here or here. I generally like to see it more at this base, because then you can get a planetary and just completely dominate the middle. Looks like the Mutalisks are now going to be able to do some harassment, but these Marines with their combat shields should do very, very well. We do now see a tech up to Siege Tech at the tech lab here at these factories. Going to be throwing down another tech lab to dual pump siege tanks. So it is going to be the Marine siege tank build. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looks like that's going to be it for now in the way of barracks. So 4 barracks, 2 factories. I would like to see a starport soon enough so he can get those medevacs and stay on top of the health of his units. 3 supply depots are going down while this expansion is reconstructed. Absolutely crucial blow there. We can see the Terran player is outmining the Zerg at this moment, but luckily for aTnDarKFoRcE, he is going to be dual expanding while an engagement comes here with the Hellions once again. Not going to let these units go to waste. He tries to do some damage, but remember, Banelings are not light units, so the Hellions don't get their damage boost against them. You really need the siege tanks to do the splash damage and basically explode the Banelings. And against this unit combination, I do like the Roaches. They do some damage versus the Marines, so it is nice to see this. They also can tank a fair bit of damage from those siege tanks. However, obviously Mutalisks are the best versus the siege tanks. It looks like the Terran player is going to be pushing out with 2 tanks, handful of Marines and Hellions, and the medevacs are now coming out. Going to be working on the destructible rocks. Siege is up in the middle. If he gets this base up, this planetary fortress, which he looks like he's gearing up to do, we could see a major power shift in this game in the Terran player's favor. Once this base is up, it is so hard to break for a Zerg player. I know I've been in this situation many a time. When this becomes a planetary fortress, it's absolutely impregnable. If you try to come in from any angle, it does not matter with the siege tanks with their massive range. They can attack you no matter where you come in from. And the splash damage of the planetary will deal with the Banelings very well. Looks like the Mutalisks will be doing some harassment here before the missile turret is complete. Going to repel them now, along with these Marines. Going to be doing some damage. Mutas are flying around and harassing. If we look at the production tab, we can see he's getting the upgrades for his Mutas. Going to get the flyer attacks 1, and also upgrading his Carapace level 1, as well as his Zerg melee attacks for his ground forces, which are quickly growing in number. We see 165 supply to the 167 of the Terran player, so he has caught up in supply, and it looks like Terran's going to be running into a huge supply block right about now. Yep, there it goes. He's going to need to construct quite a few supply depots right now. And it looks like we're getting the flyer carapace as well, so it's going to upgrade his air unit's armor. Another gas is being thrown down, so we have full gas saturation right now for the Zerg player as well as the Terran. So both players are opting for the higher tech. We see 2 Thors are now out, which is very nice. They can tank a ton of damage from the Banelings and deal their own splash versus the Mutas, which are doing their very best to be extremely irritating against this gold expansion, forcing 2 missile turrets to be put up. This sensor tower is going to see everything along this radius here. Going to see any attack, and it looks like a scan is going to clear out some of the creep tuners, but the tanks are unsieged, and the Zerg player decides to engage. This could be extremely bad. The entire Terran army is quickly mopped up by the Banelings, but another reinforcing group down here should be enough to keep these at bay. Both of the Thors do get taken out, though, which is a huge loss of minerals, and it looks like, I would suggest backing up to the planetary right now, the Terran player, because these Zerg forces are too much for him right now to deal with. But with all these medevacs healing, these last infantry units may be enough to make those Roaches go home. And then they scurry onto the creep, getting their speed bonus, and running away to the safety of some newly morphing Banelings. Meanwhile, we actually see a ton of overlords all over the map. Excellent overlord positioning here by the Zerg player, keeping vision over every expo possible, going to make sure the Terran cannot expand. At the same time, we have 7 more Mutalisks going out now, and the hive is now in construction. We can see the infestation pit was thrown up a while ago, so going to be getting that hive. Hopefully we'll see a tech up to maybe the Ultralisk or Broodlord. Both of them are fairly good against this unit composition. I would like to see the Broodlords actually. They do much better versus the Bioball than Ultralisk would. The Marauders do tons of damage to Ultralisk. I know it's kind of unfair that a tier, I'd give the Marauder maybe tier 1.25, does fare very well against a tier 3 unit. So a little bit of imbalance there, but nothing big. And the Mutas do clump up a bit there. We can see their health was significantly damaged. There they are. The splash damage of the Thor does do a lot versus air units that are clumped up. He's going to be pressing here, and actually he arrives before the missile turrets are even placed, so going to be somewhat annoying, but he does decide to go over and do something here. Takes out the missile turret that was defending, and a few SCVs. Would have liked to see him snipe off that mule actually. But at the same time, an engagement is coming here, and he quickly retreats to the tanks, but there are so many Banelings that it might not matter. He needs to quickly fall back to the planetary. The Banelings are exploding on the wrong units, however. The tank takes a ton of Banelings out by just standing there. So a little lapse of micro of DarkFoRcE costs him a ton of units and this expansion most likely. As we can see, it quickly falls. Well, some more Banelings are being morphed here. Actually, a considerable amount are being morphed in, and they're sent back to rally with the other units. Meanwhile, the Terran player scans here, take away the creep and remove the Zerg's vision. We do have those infestors now coming out, as well as melee attacks level 2. And another expansion, I can't even count them anymore, is going down at the other side here to compensate for the lost gold. Meanwhile, we have a bunch of overlords caught off guard here. This won't do much though, however, because he's currently 113 over 200. We do see that the Terran player is at a huge advantage right now though. SjoW is clearly pushing ahead with his superior production capability, with his 9 barracks, 2 factory, this reactive starport. As we see here, Banelings are just dying to the siege tank fire in the back. We see 15 kills on this and 7 on the one beside it. So the infestors now show up, but they might be a little too late to this party because this hatchery is under fire. And there goes the GG from the Zerg player. DarkFoRcE, aTnDarKFoRcE calls GG in this game versus SjoW. So a very, very back and forth game. I was extremely impressed with both players. I feel like Zerg came out with an early lead because he was slightly ahead on the tech after the bunker rush, which did not do too much damage. But when he lost the engagement here and didn't pull back, he sort of lost a little too much that he could not recover anymore. And obviously losing this expansion twice does not help. So thank you very much for tuning in to this cast. I do hope to see you again in my next cast. Probably going to be a Terran versus Protoss, and then a Zerg versus Protoss, and then you might see some mirror matchups. So thank you very much, guys, and I hope to see you again for another Daily Dose of Ownage.